This video is sponsored by OWC. This year's new iPhone, the iPhone 12 Pro, comes with an updated triple lens camera array on the back of the phone, along with a LiDAR scanner to not only improve AR capabilities, but also offer you some help with autofocus, particularly while taking pictures in lower light. I'm pretty confident that if you have anything older than last year's iPhone 11 or 11 Pro, this phone will feel like a pretty substantial upgrade in the camera department. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at what the iPhone 12 cameras have to offer and just see how much better they are compared to last year's iPhone 11 Pro. Starting off with the front-facing camera, this year on the iPhone 12 Pro, nothing's really changed in terms of the specs of the sensor. It's still a 12 megapixel wide-angle camera at f2.2, but you do get a few new features like night mode and night mode time-lapse added to the front camera. Deep Fusion was also added to the front-facing camera this year as well, but I'm not sure any of these new features make that big of a difference, aside from, of course, night mode. If you happen to be taking a selfie in the dark, night mode certainly does a much better job than last year's iPhone 11 Pro because it didn't have night mode. But overall, I haven't noticed any crazy differences between the two front-facing cameras. So here's a quick front-facing camera video test. It's still capable of shooting 4K 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. This is the iPhone 12 Pro. And on the 11 Pro, same thing, still 4K 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. Just by looking at these two, I'm not really noticing that much of a difference. The iPhone 12 Pro might be a little bit more crisp. You can see there's a little bit of a difference in color temperature, it seems, but I won't really know until I get this on the computer and really look at it from there. But again, let me know what you guys think about the front-facing camera on each device. And of course, I'm switching between audio on each device, so which one sounds better? I can't imagine there's going to be that big of a difference, but who knows? Now, on the back of the iPhone 12, we have a triple lens camera setup with the ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto lenses alongside a new LiDAR scanner. And with these new cameras comes some new features like night mode portraits, night mode time-lapse, and being one of the first phones out on the market that can shoot and edit 4K HDR Dolby Vision video. Later this year, Apple will release a new format for photos called Apple Pro RAW, which will give users the ability to really take control and refine each detail when editing pictures. So, as far as taking pictures outside in relatively good lighting, yeah, there's no doubt the iPhone 12 Pro will do just fine with taking some pretty incredible detailed photos. Smart HDR3 does a really good job at nailing the important details like white balance and just overall producing a much more defined image. Everything just looks a lot more crisp to me, but when comparing it against an iPhone 11 Pro, I feel like the differences aren't going to be that noticeable unless you're really zooming in and trying to look for imperfections. I don't think that's a knock on the 12 Pro, but rather how good the iPhone 11 Pro was at taking photos in ideal conditions. Now, the 12 Pro this year just comes in and cleans up those little messes that the iPhone 11 Pro might leave behind in an image. So the same holds true with portrait photos as well. I feel like it's getting better at edge detection and being able to separate the foreground and background a bit more and a bit more accurately. I think the LiDAR scanner probably has something a little bit to do with the improvement here, as the scanner can just do a better job at mapping the depth and the space of the room or environment that you're in, and it can potentially lead to some better depth sensing. In not so ideal lighting conditions, I think this is where the iPhone 12 Pro starts to separate a little bit. In some cases, especially in night mode, you might not notice at first glance, but if you zoom in on some photos, there's some much more detail and sharpness to the 12 Pro than the 11 Pro. It's just a little bit sharper and much more vibrant than on the 11 Pro. Even in good lighting, as I mentioned before, the lenses just seem to produce sharper images. Just take both the ground and the sky in this photo. The gravel has much more detail in it alongside the clouds. I don't think any of this is truly going to blow the average consumer away when you're comparing it to these two systems, but it does show you that there is an improvement between these two cameras. The more noticeable differences just really come when taking pictures at night. Not to mention, night mode is available on all three cameras on the back this year, plus the front-facing camera, and that's just not the case with the 11 Pro. With video, there are a couple of things that are worth pointing out. I noticed that while I was walking around in this parking lot, and yes, I was purposely trying to move around kind of quickly and just being jarring for a reason, to see if whether the cameras were really good at readjusting focus and getting latched onto what's in front of you, And for the most part, both phones did a good job, but I did notice that at the beginning here, the 11 Pro had a hard time finding focus. It was continuously hunting for a spot to lock in on, while the iPhone 12 Pro had absolutely no problems out of the gate. This could be because that new LiDAR scanner was hard at work providing some excellent autofocus capabilities. Another thing with the video here is HDR Dolby Vision. So this video here in the parking lot is not in HDR, but the one of my kids at the playground here was shot in HDR. Now I had to do some editing in post-production to even begin to get this video to look normal because of the HDR feature. While I could edit everything on my phone, no problem, this format does not play nicely on my Mac right now, or at least not in Final Cut Pro, and without applying any color edits, it doesn't really look that great, everything is super blown out. However, if you show someone an HDR Dolby Vision video on your iPhone 12 Pro and then have them watch it back on that device, the reaction is pretty priceless. I showed my parents a video and they were just blown away at the quality and just how bright, defined, and crisp everything looked. And you should be able to see the difference here too just by looking at each video played on each device, one in HDR and one not. I'm not sure how many people are going to play videos on their HDR Dolby Vision TVs at home, but if you do your videos in this mode, it should look rather incredible. For the average person, I'm not entirely sure this is really something you need, and if you don't want it on, it actually does come on by default, so I recommend heading into settings and turning it off, especially if you plan on sharing your videos with other people or other devices that won't have this capability. So the iPhone 12 Pro cameras are certainly an upgrade in my eyes, but I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Are you seeing major differences between last year's Pro models and this year's Pro models? Do you think it's worth upgrading to? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Now, before we end today's video, I do want to give you more information about today's sponsor, OWC. OWC offers a wide range of products for your Mac, like internal hard drives, SSDs, memory, Thunderbolt 3 docks, and much more. One product that really caught my attention recently is the OWC Envoy Express. This is the world's first Thunderbolt certified, bus-powered, add your own drive enclosure, which gives you the power to build your own external SSD drive. It's designed to support any 2280 M.2 NVMe SSDs, and it's meant to be future-proof with no limit on future storage capacities. It has a super convenient build to it that's ready to go with an integrated 10.2-inch cable, runs very silent, and is cool and extremely fast. This is definitely my go-to solution for editing on the go, and if you're interested in the Envoy Express or any other products that OWC has to offer, be sure to click the link in the description down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.